Amalia, you're muted.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that everyone, if you could just press OK for the recording so that we can get started and you can initiate the thing. So let me just take a moment just to introduce myself. My name is Amalia Rahman. Generally, I haven't introduced myself in the past, so it's a little bit awkward. I'll try to I tried to think of what blurb I could say, but I've been a master food preserver and a master gardener since 2017. My interests really are in community resiliency and in food security. And I try to imbue those kinds of interests and principles in all of the things that I teach or do presentations on. I do have permaculture design certification, and I'm also a qualified water efficiency landscaper. And that sort of lets you know where my interests lie.
Great. I got a notification there was a payment, and I just said,
Cecilia, you're not muted, and we can hear your conversation. Thank you. So that's basically who I am, what my interests are, and I'm really thankful that you're all here. I really appreciate you taking the time and showing the interest to share this with me. And I'd like to just get right started into the PowerPoint. And we were just basically going to talk about the holidays and how you can make the holidays less stressful for yourself by utilizing many of the things and techniques in food preservation. Now, when I was younger and I had 5 children, I used to sometimes, well, to be really honest, dread the holidays. I just felt like they were so overwhelming and there was so much work to do. And for days before the holiday, I was just cooking and buying grocery stuff, and I just felt overwhelmed. And I remember even saying to one of my friends, "Oh my God, I don't know if I'm looking forward to these holidays." And she thought I was insane. But then she had a big family that did a lot of things together, where I was really on my own with my 5 kids and my immediate family and a few friends. Why don't you go ahead and put out the PowerPoint? Now, there's no doubt that the holidays are work. But the idea is to spread that work out and make it so that it's pleasant. And so that when the holidays come, you're able to really sit down and enjoy them with your guests and with your family and friends. And what we're going to do is we're going to look at our some of the techniques and some of the products that I make in my house, just to give you an idea of how you can look at your favorite meals and celebratory foods and make them easier for you. And we're going to talk about just regular meals, snacks, hors d'oeuvres, desserts, and even a few gift ideas, just to give you an idea of what you can do to make it so much simpler for yourself. Could we go to the next slide, please? Thank you. And so the question is, like, how does your preservation food pantry facilitate this for you? How do you accomplish this? One of the tools we have is the freezer. Now, traditionally, people make things ahead and freeze them, and that's all good. I mean, but I personally really like freshly cooked food. So I prefer to put things in either raw or prepped, like diced vegetables, whatever it is, and I put them in the freezer. And that way, the freezer is a place where you can really preserve a lot of the flavors and a lot of the nutrition in the foods, and then bring them out and use them. And so we're going to talk about how the freezer can be a wonderful place for some of our preps, not necessarily for some of the completed foods. We're also going to look at how we can utilize this by the pantry to make really delicious meals, something that you're like really proud to serve to people, and in such a way that all the prep and all the hard work is gone, and you just sort of take 10-15 minutes to put it together, and yet it's still freshly made and delicious. Go ahead to the next slide, please. Okay, so how to use it. I do want to make one statement here. The quality of the food that you put into your food preservation pantry is going to be basically directly related or correlated to what you bring out. So for example, I have an apple tree, and I bring apples and I dehydrate them. I made some jellies, applesauce, whatever. What really is so delightful about that is that I can pick it when it's perfectly ripe. I take it and I bring it into my into my kitchen, and I prepare it. I know exactly what products are put in there. I know that there are no preservatives. There's no coloring. There's none of those chemicals that might affect the nutritional value and the taste and the really what can also be detrimental. I mean, food coloring can be really detrimental to some people's health. Some people have significant allergies to that. And so when you put that into your preservation pantry, you're really putting in very high quality food that you're going to bring out too. And then what I want to tell you is I want you to take, for instance, your favorite recipes. I don't know. We love kebab. I have these ground beef and ground lamb kebabs that I make, and I make them with a special spice that I think makes all the difference in how good your kebab is.
I am back in business again.
Excuse me. All right. So where was I? Lost my place. Give me a second. Oh, yes. So I take that and I say to myself, how can I take that recipe and make it easier for myself? And I will discuss that in the presentation today. So when I talk to you about my recipes and the things that I do, I want you to consider how you could do that for yourself, because you're not going to copy what I do in my house, but you're going to use the techniques and the tools that I use to make the things that you like best. At least that's what I hope you come away with from this presentation. And one other thing I want to tell you, that yes, it's great for the holidays. I mean, you know, like, oh, the holidays are coming up and you're going to utilize all these things, but sometimes that doesn't feel very easy either. So if you were to do this in your home regularly, like if you generally dehydrate food, if you generally can food, this comes very, very easily with almost no effort in order to produce this kind of technique for your holidays and special occasions, or friends who show up, you know, without notice, etc. May I go to the next slide, please? Janice, are you there? Is everybody there? Am I there?
Hang on just a second.
Oh.
I was trying to do something and it went goofy.
All right, no
I
problem.
might have to stop. Okay, here we go.
Thank you.
All right.
Okay, here are some suggestions. Now, I personally use onions almost every day in every meal that I cook. I saute onions, or and so I buy a big 50-pound bag of onions, maybe once, possibly twice a year. I keep that bag of onions in my kitchen, and after I buy it, over the next month, month and a half, possibly even 2 months, I'm chopping up those onions when I'm doing my regular food preparation. So let's say, for example, I'm making an omelet in the morning and I'm going to use some onions. So I'm going to take my cutting board out and an onion, and I start chopping, and I just chop for that dish. Then I open up a freezer bag, a plastic freezer bag, and I chop up 3 more onions. I'm just doing it. It takes me an extra 2 or 3 minutes. I throw it into that bag, I zip it up, and I put it in the freezer. Later on in the evening, I might be making a chicken dish or a potato dish, and I want some sauteed onions. I go and I take another fresh onion and I cut that up for that dish. And then after I've done that, I'll pull out, you know, I've got my cutting board out already. I've got my knife, everything out. I put it out, and then I go ahead and I cut 3 or 4, 5 more onions. So and then I pull that bag out from the freezer and I put that stuff in there, zip it up and put it back. And as I fill bag after bag over the next few weeks, I've got 50 pounds of, well, maybe I have 40 pounds in the freezer and 10 pounds that I've used fresh. And I might just leave a few in the basket that I have in the kitchen to use fresh on and off. So that way I have, and the reason I do that is because, first of all, it's very convenient to have it already chopped in the freezer, especially if last minute I want to serve somebody something. I don't have to pull out you know, I hate messing up my kitchen when people are here. I want to be able to just bring something together. But most importantly, not most important, but very important, is the fact that a 50-pound bag of onions costs $15. The prices now have gone up a little bit, and the guy apologized to me that the prices went up and I had to pay $18, so $3 more. You know, and I know that you can't get 50 pounds of onions at the grocery store for $15, $18. That's just not something that's easy to do. And you can do that for a lot of things. You can do it for, like here you have the main ingredients for mirepoix. celery, onions, carrots. You can even take kale, because kale is a thick, hardy, leafy vegetable. So it will, it stays, it doesn't wilt in the freezer. It stays firm, but it will crumble and break up. So if you want to put kale into a soup dish or something like that, or into a rice or some kind of vegetable a medley kind of thing, you can freeze your kale and bring it out and use it. And this is where I'm talking to you about, like, I want you to take a minute and think to yourself, what do I always prep that I could already have on the shelf, or I could already have in the freezer? And that would make it so much easier for me. And I'm going to bring out some more things. For example, I remember that after I became one or two classes after me, they canned mirepoix. Mirepoix is these vegetables, celery, onions, and carrots. And they canned it. And I thought, what for? Because you're chopping it up and you're putting it in and you're just sauteing it. Because I think, oh, I'm such a quick cook, I can do this. But boy, let me tell you, nobody wanted the mirepoix, so I ended up taking a few jars of them. I have one left. It's a very precious jar. And I found that that thing saves me at least 30 minutes to 45 minutes of food preparation for any meal in which I use it, because the mirepoix is already chopped. It's already cooked and sauteed and softened. It's also has a broth that I can set aside, and I can use that broth later for another dish or for something else that I'm making, like saute cook the rice in it or something like that. So like there's it's just the best thing in the world. If you're going to learn to can anything, I suggest as a prep, I suggest you can mirepoix. It's just wonderful. Go ahead, Janice, to the next slide, please. There's my bag of, actually still sitting here. I just took this picture. I just bought it 2 days ago. That's my bag of 50 pounds of onions. And like I said, in about a month, and they will last totally. They stay fresh and crisp and everything. They will last the month, sometimes 2 months. In the wintertime, I like to buy them in the winter because I buy it at the very beginning of the winter and I can keep it in my garage where it's cool. And then I can also, at the end of the winter time, if I find that I'm using a lot and I need another bag, because again, it will be cool in the garage. I do not buy something like this in the middle of summer, because if I were to buy this in the middle of the summer, it won't last the 2 or 3 months and stay fresh for me and firm and everything. It will be stressed and they start to rot. And then the other picture here, that's chicken. Now it doesn't look very good. Chicken is very easy to can, or any meat. You can raw pack meat and can it. So you're basically putting raw meat into a jar and you're canning it like that, really. And you think and it takes a long time. I think you're cooking chicken for about 90 minutes that you're actually processing it at 11 pounds or 240 degrees. You think it's going to come out crumbly and dry and hard. It comes out so tender and so moist. So canning is wonderful because it really preserves the moisture and makes the meat very tender. Go ahead and go to the next slide, please.
You're talking about pressure canning chicken.
Yes, pressure canning chicken, yes. Okay, and here are, this is something that I was working on this last few days. One of the great things about food preservation is that it really reduces your food waste. For example, I don't know about you, I have a dish in mind and I want potatoes, and I go and I buy a bag of potatoes, and those potatoes, I've never finished them without some of them getting soft or rotting or bringing out those ears or whatever those things are called. And I end up throwing out so much. But then I recently found that canning potatoes is so easy. So potatoes, basically white potatoes, because sweet potatoes are very different. You can can whole white potatoes, especially the small fingerling ones that are about 2 inches in long or something. As long as they're small like that, you can can them whole, right in there. It's hot packing. If you can a full potato that's about 2 inches in diameter, that needs to parboil for 10 minutes. Then you put it into the the jar, and you put fresh hot water over it with 1 inch of headspace, and you can it for 40 minutes in the canner, and you have this. And so what I did was I thought, okay, let me try it. And I went ahead and I put all of my potatoes in the pot. I got 4 quarts. Was it 4 quarts? Yeah, I have 4 quarts of potatoes from a little bag, and it was the easiest canning that I've ever done. It was just easy peasy. Now this is a chicken and veggie broth. If you see the other one, the chicken and veggie broth, that's actually from scraps. It's all the food scraps, the vegetables and the chicken that was left over. I just stuff everything in there in a Ziploc bag. As like, for example, I'm cutting up carrots, the end of the carrots, the skin of the onions, the ends of the onions, the top of the bell pepper that I cut out, even the spines inside the bell pepper. I occasionally will put in like a bit of a hot pepper. I'm not a person who likes heat. I don't do well with heat in food. So, and I'll throw that in, and I just keep on building up on that freezer bag that's in my my freezer. And when I have enough, like I'll have like 2 chickens worth or a bunch of chicken legs and thighs that I've put all the bones in, I'll go ahead and put it in my Instapot. I put it on pressure canning with all the vegetables, everything. I just throw it in. And I put everything into the Instapot and I pressure cook it for a chicken broth or for a bone broth and a vegetable broth mixed together for about 3 hours. And I come out with this really, really rich broth. Now I put it up to the top of, I have an 8-quart one, and I put it to the just below the pressure canning level of liquid. And when I strained it, I got 4 quarts of the broth. So you do have to strain it. You don't want any of those little bits and pieces and junk from, you know, all the old veggies that you didn't want to have in your food to begin with. It's just a wonderful way of getting byproduct after byproduct from the same item. Go ahead and to the next slide, please.
Oops.
Okay. Another thing too is using things that you know, like we traditionally think of applesauce as a dessert, but applesauce can be used in recipes in lieu of sugar. Keep in mind though that sugar is dry and applesauce is wet, so you may have to adjust your recipe a little bit by adding a little less liquid. But applesauce, especially like this, I have this cinnamon and ginger applesauce that I've made. I canned about, I don't know, 12 jars of it, and I can intermittently use it in different recipes. I mean, obviously I wouldn't use it in lieu of sugar for a chocolate cake, but if I'm making a pound cake, if I'm making a yellow cake, or if I'm making a coffee cake, this is a great substitute for sugar. And not just that, it's also digested more easily by people than sugar. It's not as artificial. And what a great savings. I have this apple tree in the backyard. So when I make this when I make this applesauce, I go ahead and use it in place of sugar, and I have a really good savings. Next slide, please. Now this is the rotisserie chicken, and what I'm going to talk to you about this. This is wonderful. This is where I made my broth from. So I brought the rotisserie chicken home. It's not something I usually do, but of course, when I do something, I want to get everything out of it that I can. We had lunch together from the rotisserie chicken because I was running late and I was running a bunch of errands. I'd been out for 3 hours. I knew when I came home, my kids are going, oh, mommy, what's to eat? So I brought the rotisserie chicken. It was sitting there and it smelled so good. I was pretty hungry too. I was checking out from the store and I said, let me grab it. So I grabbed it. I brought it home. We had lunch. Then after that, I shredded that chicken, and I took every bit of juice, that au jus that's on the bottom of that pan, and I stuck it in this freezer bag. And I put it and I dated it and I wrote down what it was. I shredded it up so it'll be great. I'll make a dish out of it. So that's a second use. I've got another dish that I can make. And what I can do to easy peasy, somebody's over, I want to make a quick meal and I want it homemade. I'll go ahead and make a roux, add some cream base. Maybe it'll be half and half or milk, whatever I have. And then I'll add the chicken. I can even add this chicken frozen, and the broth will go ahead and just heat it through, and it'll be a wonderful dish to put over. I like it over toast, to be honest with you. Then the third thing I did was I took that carcass and I added it over to, I added that into the bag that I have in the freezer of all my frozen vegetables and stuff. I added it into that, and then I thought, oh wow, it's full, and I went ahead and I made that chicken broth. Go ahead to the next slide, please. All right, and let me tell you, when I buy chicken, I buy it with the bone, so I can make a bone broth from it, and I buy it with the skin. And they charge you more to give you less. I mean, they will charge you more for taking the skin off and being boneless. I will do the work. And what I do, I know some people like, I think it's called chicharrones, where you have like that part of a pig that makes it to a crackling or something. So these are chicken skin crackling. It is delicious, or what we call schmaltz. And everything, all the liquid that you see there is chicken fat. I will save that. I will eat those things like chips, and I will share with my dog Archimedes, because whenever he smells that, he sits next to me. I mean, I just put it on the stove real kind of low, medium low, and I just let it cook for about 45 minutes. And I get these delicious cracklings, just a sprinkle of salt on them. And then I will pour the fat, once it's cooled a little bit, over his kibble, and he loves it. So this is kind of like, whenever I make this, I think of this dish as me and my dog dish. It looks pretty unappetizing initially if you look on the picture on the left, but on the right, it's really pretty delicious. And again, instead of paying extra for not getting something, I'm making it into cracklings, chicken fat that I can use to share with my dog, or chicken fat that I can use for cooking other meals as well. Go ahead and, yes, thank you. And I was trying to think like, okay, when people come over and you want to do something fun with them, you know, it's not got to be all food. Sometimes it's just overwhelming, the amount of food that you bring into people. Sometimes you can make something that's a little bit lighter. And I was thinking, what can I do with drinks? And this is pineapple juice with little dried cranberries put into the thing and made into ice cubes. And I thought, wouldn't that be great as a drink? And it kind of makes the more interesting or more fun. For example, if you had Coke and you had like an ice cube that was made out of cherry juice with a little maraschino cherry frozen inside, that would be so cute too. One thing I tried, and I want to share my failures with you as well as my successes. I thought, okay, let me try using, this is kind of like, I don't know what's called, Irish cream. I guess it's a liqueur, a cream liqueur. Now this has only 17% alcohol in it. And I thought, okay, wouldn't it be great if I could make an ice cube of this liqueur, and then in the evening, if somebody comes over and I'm having a cup of coffee after dinner, I can drop a couple of ice cubes in their coffee, and that would be like a creamer liqueur kind of thing. Well, it didn't freeze. I mean, it just stayed like a sticky, gooey honey, like almost like a honey texture. And so that didn't freeze. So I guess whatever you freeze, it's got to be less than 17% alcohol or it won't freeze. One of the things I did want to mention is that we're going to have that gifts from the kitchen presentation. Now, this is the once in a year that we have a fundraiser. So this presentation you do pay for. They're going to talk a lot about drinks. They're going to talk a lot about all kinds of beverages that you can make. And a lot of them are going to discuss our jams and jellies. I mean, we as preservers, we get lots of fruit and stuff, and the easiest way and one of the simplest ways and the most common ways to make jams, jellies, preserves, conserves, and stuff like that. But what do you do with all of them? I mean, you can't eat that much toast. So there are a lot of different things that they're going to talk about, particularly making mixed drinks. And I wanted to mention that's coming up, I think, December 3rd and 5th, or 3rd and 4th. Janice, I don't know if you can correct me on the dates.
December 3rd and 4th. I should
Okay.
be sending out
Yeah.
I should be putting that on the website tomorrow.
Yeah, so anyway, if you're interested in doing that, I just want to put a little plug in for them that Maria and Janelle are going to be running that in the beginning of December. And one other thing, you know, like, well, I'll get to that part later. But anyway, so that's just a little plug for them. And I'll be mentioning that a little bit later as well. Go ahead to the next slide, please.
Whoop.
Oh, okay, then I will mention it now because it's here.
Okay.
I wanted to let you guys know that this booklet, now this is like 70 pages, I think, 69, 70 pages of recipes and ideas from last year's. This is not this coming year, but from last year's Gifts from the Kitchen. I think it's a really great book. I know I got one. I want you to know that they're available. If you want them, you can contact, I guess, Janice. I'm not sure exactly how you would do that. You can let them know, Janice. It will be mailed out to you. And if you want it mailed to you, and it's a hard copy, not something that we just email, it's a digital copy, but this is a hard copy mailed to you for $15. Again, it's kind of like a fundraiser thing. So if you're interested in doing that, that would be greatly appreciated. You can go to the next slide, please.
Hang on, I'm putting in my website. I mean,
What's-
my email.
Oh, your email, good. So there's Janice's email address. It's going to be in the chat. If you want to write it down, go ahead and do so and contact her. Again, this is our once a year, fundraiser. And they have a completely new book this year. So that's why we're offering this last year's book like this, because anybody who wants to make a collection, they can go ahead and get last year's and this year's. These ladies, they work really hard. They test everything in their own kitchen and they just are really great. So just a little plug for them. Okay, now I'm going to talk to you about the potatoes and canning things like squash.
Sorry.
That's okay. Go ahead. I'm going to talk to you about potatoes and canning things that are more viscous or thick, like squash, pumpkin, potatoes, sweet potatoes. They are so thick and heavy that right now, or at this point, we don't have times or recipes for canning them properly if you're going to just put them in a jar. They need to be cubed, and they need to be cubed about a 1 inch in diameter, like a little inch square. And the reason being is that the test kitchens and different recipes have been able to confirm that, yes, indeed, when you cook when you cook the 1 inch cubes, it's guaranteed that to the center, it will reach the temperature needed to get rid of all of the non-beneficial or dangerous bacteria like botulism or whatever the name is. So when I showed you those potatoes, you have to follow the recipes very carefully. If it tells you that your potato hole shouldn't be more than 2 inches in diameter and you need to boil it for 10 minutes before you can it, do it for 10 minutes. Now, if you do the 1 inch cube for the potatoes, you only need to boil it for 2 minutes, and then you can hot pack it. So the recipes are very specific, but they are based on research done in laboratories, and you can be assured that if you follow that recipe, you are providing your family with completely safe food. Okay, go ahead to the next slide, please. Okay, one other thing too, I don't know about you guys, I love marinated foods. Like I love my chicken marinated in preserved lemon and olive oil and all kinds of spices. I love sesame chicken. I love barbecue chicken, teriyaki chicken, all these different dishes, sesame beef, but they need to be marinated. And I don't know about you, but I never remember to marinate on time. Never. So what I do is I will put the chicken, I'll open up a bunch of freezer bags. I'll put the chicken, the beef strips, whatever it is I'm doing. One of the things I like to do too with beef is I like to put liquid smoke in and let it saturate into that too. And then I go ahead and put it in a freezer bag. I put in all the spices, salt, pepper, garlic, sesame oil, olive oil, whatever the spices are. I put Worcestershire sauce, and then soy sauce, etc. And I mix it all up, and then I lay it flat. So I try to flatten the bag and go ahead and put it in the freezer. And I'm able to take it out later. It's fully marinated. I let it just defrost maybe an hour or so and just go ahead and cook it. You can, if you remember to take it out the night before or in the morning, defrost it in your refrigerator. That's ideal. That's the best way to do it. But I don't always do it like that, to be really honest. Now, one of the things that I do also to save money is I buy chicken in cases, like a 40-pound case. And when I do that, I have to plan ahead, because if I want to marinate it, I need to marinate it when it's fresh and before I put it in the freezer. Because I cannot, once I put it in the freezer, take it out, marinate it, and freeze it again. So this is something that I'm not sure if everybody's aware of. You cannot refreeze defrosted meat unless you cook it first. So if you're putting it into a marinade and you're just putting sauces and spices on it, you cannot safely put it back in the freezer. So just wanted to mention that, because I think that's really important to know. And if you do buy in bulk like I do, sometimes you have to plan that certain amounts, like 10 pounds of that, or is going to go to marinated foods, and I'm going to make sure I have all the spices and the sauces and everything in the freezer bags and the room in the freezer. But if you're going to do it like that, also one other thing I want to have you keep in mind is that when you're planning on doing a large freezer, a large amount of meat or something in your freezer, it might be advisable to make your freezer a little bit colder, so that when you put the non-frozen food in, it doesn't affect the freezer's temperature. Everything else won't get warmer, or if it gets a little warmer, it won't go down that significantly to put it where it needs to be. It could be, I don't want to say dangerous, but it could be unhealthy for other things to thaw out. So, and also to distribute it. If it's not frozen, distribute it out in your freezer and make it thin. It'll freeze faster. It'll affect the temperature of the freezer less. And then you can go ahead and come back. Even if you put it on a tray inside your freezer, go back and then pile it up and stick it in a corner of the freezer. So these are things that are really important to remember when you're working with your freezer, when you're working with raw food, when you're working with meat, or when you're putting in large amounts of anything that are not frozen into your freezer. Go ahead, please, to the next slide. We talk a lot about preserved lemons. I make a dish that is really well liked by everyone, my family and friends, and it uses preserved lemons. I give preserved lemons away as gifts, and I think people don't really know how to use it. So I think it's important. I'm going to take a minute to show you preserved lemons, because I remember someone saying to me that, oh, when they opened it up the first time, they thought it had gone all rotten. And then someone else said to me, oh, I only use the rind. I throw out all the pulp and I just rinse it under the water, rinse it under the water. So I'm going to show you how I do it. Now, go back, please. Yeah. If you could actually just take the PowerPoint off for a minute so I can do this demonstration and I can show people how I do this. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Okay, so I'm just going to scoot this down a little bit so that we can focus on what I have in front of me. Bear with me for a minute. There we go. All right. So this is a bowl of water. Okay, and it's just plain water. Cold water is nice. Room temperature water doesn't really matter. Now, let me lift it up for a second so I can show you this as well. And this is the preserved lemon. And you're going to be a little bit surprised about the consistency. This is very soft, as you can see. It's gelatinous, as you can see. See, balup, balup. Okay, this is perfect. I know that some people say, what is this stuff? Well, this is preserved lemons. Oh my God, my mouth is watering. It's so delicious to me. Anyway, I'll take 1, 2, 3, whatever, depending on how much. And I'm going to put it into this water. Now, this is incredibly salty. Okay. And so you want to reserve putting any salt into your dish until you put the lemon in and then taste it and see if it needs salt. I'll take it and obviously this is a small bowl that I'm just showing everyone. I'll probably take a bigger bowl. A lot of people throw this away. I do not. This is the pulp inside. It is delicious. Okay. And it turns and it like melts away into the sauce beautifully. If you have any kind of sauce, which I always do, you know, there's all this au jus, and this will sort of like break up into the au jus. And this, okay, is the peel. And this is what we harvest. What's the main harvest of this? This is completely so soft, sweet and salty. Is no bitterness in this. And I will shred this and tie, you know, like julienne it and put it into my dish. But when I do this, I'm going to let this soak for about, I don't know, maybe 5 minutes before I'll take it out. I might rinse it a little bit, but I don't want to lose the pulp. And I make sure I take out all the pits at this point. And this is how you use preserved lemons in a dish. Okay, just for those of you, I know we've been selling this recipe for years to people. And I recently had somebody say to me that, oh, you know, when I opened it up, I wasn't sure if that was something I could actually use or not. I mean, it looked so, you know, gungy. And it is really thick and gelatinous. So just an FYI, I'm going to clean that off later, I guess. Made a little mess here because I just opened that for the first time. Okay, so just wanted to share that with you guys. And Janice, if you don't mind, could you put the presentation back up? And just go to the next slide, please. Okay, and here I'm showing you how I made sesame chicken. These are chicken thighs. I took the skin off of this chicken, and that was the crackling that I made. And the chicken fat that I rendered was off of the crackling in the pan, which came off of these thighs. And when I'm done serving this, I will take and everybody eating, I will collect the bones, and I will go ahead and make a bone broth, probably with whatever vegetables are in the freezer as well. On the right, I'm showing you a tray of different kebabs. I couldn't find one with just just kebab. So it has a few other kind of like marinated meats in it there too. This is from a restaurant we went to. Mine doesn't always look as decorative as this. But the kebabs on the right, they are lamb and beef. And there is a particular spice that I put in these. It's called sumac, SUMAC. This can be found in any Indian or Middle Eastern grocery store. Sumac is the ground dried berries of a very tart-like bush. And the flavors are just wonderful. It just lends this kind of like, I don't know, savory, exotic flavor to kebab. So I did include with your packets of handouts the recipe for the kebab. So if you'll look at what was sent to you, you will see that that recipe is included, okay? And I know that I showed you the pressure canned potatoes. There's also, oh, I'm sorry. I also told you about the mirepoix. So please know that that recipe for mirepoix for canning, as well as the processing information, like how long and how, at what pressure, et cetera, is there with you too in the packet. And of course, in the packet, I included using pressure canners in case you need, a little bit of encouragement or a few things you might have forgotten if you don't do it often. It's a good thing to have. And the potatoes, I talked to you about the vegan potatoes. I'm sorry, I talked to you about the canned potatoes. I have a wonderful vegan potato dish. It's sauteed onions in olive oil, and then you take your potatoes and just cook them so that there's like, you get this delicious bark on all sides. And then you throw in some caraway seeds that kind of bloom it. And of course, you can, before you put your potatoes in, you bloom your spices in with the olive oil. So those are just a few things that I wanted to include with the packet that I think they're from my kitchen, things that I like to do. And I think they might be something you might want to try. Go ahead and go to the next slide, please. Okay. I tried to think of the worst example that I could remember in my life of somebody just showing up without being invited. And came up this one time, my sister-in-law came over, and she had come over with a friend of hers that she had known as a child. And somehow this person was in the United States and came to visit her. So she literally came from like across the world. To be really honest with you, okay, I had given birth to a baby 4 days before, and I was asleep in the bed and trying to establish like an eating and feeding routine. And they showed up, and I was like, WTF. I don't know why she's here and why she brought this person without, letting me know at least, I don't know, 10, 15 minutes, a half an hour so I could get dressed and come out. I basically let her in the house and just ignored her, and said, okay, I'm going back to the baby. Baby's, needs me. And I just let her serve the guest. But that was the worst scenario. And to this day, obviously it was bad because I remember it to this day. So I was trying to think of, okay, let's say you have a situation like that. What could you have in your kitchen that's a preserved food item that's right there and you can serve very easily? Traditionally in my culture, we always serve tea when somebody comes. And it's almost always black tea or chai or something like that. If you look at the third picture, the way with the red teapot, that teapot is like 1.5 liters of liquid. So it makes about 3 or 4 good sized cups of tea. And I'll make tea in that and I'll serve it. And one thing that I like to do, like this actually, the jar that you see there is a jar of unsuccessful jelly. So I was making scrap apple jelly. So that means the scraps from making like dehydrated apples. I'll have the skins and I'll have the cores, and I will go ahead and boil that up and then use that liquid and sweeten that liquid and make what's called an apple scrap jelly. This particular recipe did not have a pectin in it. It just said to reduce it down to a certain softball temperature, which is 322 degrees, I believe. So I had the candy thermometer waiting. But my mistake was, and the instructions said, boil it for 15 minutes and not more because it will destroy the pectin that's naturally in the apples and the apple peel. And I boiled it, I think, for about 30 minutes, and it did. So if you ever want to know if that's true, I can attest to the fact that that's true. So I ended up with the syrup. So what do I do with it? So I call it apple scrap, apple scrap and ginger jelly syrup. So now I have a syrup. I give it as a gift as a syrup. And when people come over, I can use it sort of like as a sweetener for tea. It sort of adds a kind of a depth of flavor and allows me to utilize something that may be not ideal. I certainly don't want, 20 jars of this, but that's what I have. And it actually turns out to be a very nice thing to give to people or to serve to people in this way.
Can I ask you? Can I ask you if you've already distributed the recipes? You've already sent them out?
No.
Okay, after you'll
Okay,
send them out
yeah.
after. Okay.
Yes.
Thank
And you'll
you.
also get the PowerPoint presentation with some of the details. And then if you look at the middle plate, the middle is a tuna plate. I remember making this with a pickled jicama, which is a delicious food item. I love it. I don't like tuna. But I will make tuna with pickled jicama, particularly because it's so delicious, this combination. So I was making the tuna. I said to my son, so, Daniel, how does it look? He goes, what, the tuna? I go, yeah, how does it look? It looks like tuna. And I thought, okay, how am I going to make this look a little bit better? So I put a bed of lettuce down, and then I put the tuna with the jicama, pickled jicama, and a little mayonnaise. And I did that on a cracker. I actually used the spinach. It was delicious. And if you add maybe like some lettuce leaves or something, people who don't want gluten or don't want crackers, they can go ahead and put in the lettuce leaf or use the spinach leaves and eat it that way. It was delicious. It really was. I'd never done it before like that, but I really liked it. It was very refreshing. And I always, when you serve this tuna with jicama, because tuna itself kind of leaves a little bit of gritty, strong flavor in your mouth. I put the grapes because they're like a palate cleanser. They can go ahead and bite into that, eat a couple of grapes, cleanse their palate, and then turn to something like that tea and just get the full flavor enjoyment of the flavors in the tea. Over here, I have a charcuterie tray. I love to put my charcuterie on cake plates. I have this passion for cake plates. I don't know, I just love them, all different kinds, shapes, colors, and sizes. Here, almost everything on this tray is a preserved food. Olives are a preserved food. I've made it myself, but unfortunately it takes 6 to 8 months to make a really good olive. And you don't want to do, I couldn't give up the refrigerator space for it. The real estate in the refrigerator was just too valuable to have these big jars of olives sitting there for 6 months before I could use them. Then there are the 2 different kind of condiments here. I have cranberry conserves, and I also have a spiced tomato jam. And all of that is preserved food. Over there on one of the little trays that I have there is my I'm very well known for this. I know I'm kind of boasting, but it's something that I made once and everybody loves so much that I make it all the time. And it's candied pecans. I make them and I give them as gifts. I also serve them. And it's like, it's got a great shelf life of, I don't know if it's more than a month because I've never been able to keep it on the shelves for more than a month, but
Oops, sorry.
it has a very good shelf life as well. Something that is a great gift idea. You can pack that up, put it on your shelf, do 10, 20 pounds worth of it. It takes literally a half an hour to make 1 load of it. And I make successions of them. So I have like 5 or 6 jars at a time. I made it like 2 weeks ago and I have only 2 jars left. My son Musa loves it. He eats it like crazy. And so that's something you can make ahead of time and you can package up as a take with you gift item anywhere you go. If you could go to the next slide. Okay, cookie doughs. There's nothing like a homemade cookie. I mean, there's some really good cookies in the package, but when you serve somebody cookies from the package, it's cookies from the package. When you serve them homemade cookies, there's such a difference in, intent. I don't know if it's, first of all, we all know what the ingredients are, but I'm not going to make a cookie dough when somebody comes over. So what am I going to do? Because I can't keep cookie dough in my refrigerator because it's only good for fresh cookie dough is only good for about, 4 days, 5 days. It's pushing it 6 days. And some of these recipes, like for instance, the ginger cookie recipe has candied ginger in it that if you make yourself, it's a big process. You're making your candied ginger, you're using that as an ingredient, and then there's all these other things that you put together. So I decided to try and see if I froze these in freezer bags and I shaped them, I pre-shaped them, and I even squished them down a little because it says to squish them down so they'll spread better, and freeze them and find out what happens. So I'll tell you, the one all the way to the right is raw oatmeal cookie dough. And I just made them into like cookie shapes, the size that I would make for the batter, and flatten them a little bit because they're very thick and heavy and I want them to spread nicely. And I took that frozen just as it is and put it in the oven. I preheated the oven and I added about 5 minutes to the cooking time. And the cooking time was, I think it was only 12 minutes or 15 minutes. So I added 5 minutes to it and it was perfectly cooked. Here it is. Here it is. Oh my God, it's so good. It is so delicious. And I included that cookie recipe. Now this cookie recipe is tweaked a little bit to make it chewy on the inside, crisp on the outside, and really taste of oats. Not so much of ginger and nutmeg and all the other things that other people put in, but really a wonderful brown sugar oatmeal cookie. So if you just check that out a little bit, that recipe, I've kind of explained why I made those little changes. And hopefully if you try it, you'll like it. It came out perfect. So if somebody comes, no, go back, please. Okay, so if somebody comes over and I want to throw a few cookies in the refrigerator, into the oven, that'd be great. If I know somebody's coming over in a few minutes, I don't have to mess up my kitchen. I just go in and put those cookies, and when they come to my house in a half an hour, 15 minutes, my house is smelling great, you know. The two other cookies that you see on the left, one is raw, they're both the raw cookie ginger cookies. I was a little bit unsure about this one, about shaping it and how it would keep its shape. It's a softer cookie batter. So I shaped it. What you see in the center is I put it on parchment paper. There's 3 levels there. And I very carefully put it into a freezer bag, sealed it and put it in the freezer flat. I wanted to see how it would come out. The other one, I just shaped it and threw it in, rolled it into the sugar as I'm supposed to, and threw it into a freezer bag and just threw it into the freezer. When it came out, they were both perfect. So I'm never going to do that again. I am never going to line them in between, because that's what it recommends when you do cookie dough and stuff, that you do all that. You just shape it and stick it in the freezer. I mean, obviously I didn't squish it together. I kept them a little bit flat, stuck it in. But once it hardened, I could just take it in a bag and just throw it into the shelf on the side and make room for something else. So when you're freezing your cookie dough, don't even worry about defrosting it. You can take it out if you want to and then preheat the oven. By the time the oven is heated, you can do it. I didn't do that. I literally preheated the oven and took them straight out of the freezer, put them on the cookie sheet and stuck them in to see, do they get cooked all the way through? Do they have the right texture in the center, even if they're just frozen out of the freezer? And they do. So just a little recommendation there. Can you go to the next slide, please? Okay, and here I'm going to talk just quickly about the gifts. Basically for me, when I give something from the when I give a gift from my kitchen that I've made myself, I want to package it nicely. I think that the intent, the labor, the intention of giving something wholesome, something that you've made with your own hands, where you've thought about every ingredient, where you've been careful about the process, it connotes something very significant and loving and caring to the person. And that's why I also make sure that when I do that, I also package it nicely, because I think that is another way of representing your caring and thoughtfulness, and also respecting the food item that you're giving to someone. So I always try to package it as nicely as I can. On the left are my dried apples. I have a lid, a canning lid on that. And I use one of those sealing machines that has the adapter on it to put on top of your can, and it sucks the air out. So particularly dried fruit and these dehydrated apples need to stay dry and in an as airtight, airless container as possible. Some people will go ahead and put an oxygen absorber in the container. But what I like to do is suck the air out and have it seal. And that is a vacuum seal. It is not a canned product. It is not like a preserved thing on the shelf for like years and years. But it is void of air inside, and that lid is on tight. Okay. And so I don't need the ring around it. And I try to do that with all of my dried fruits to make sure that that stays airtight and as airless as possible. And on the other side, those are my candied pecans. Now, if you ever get a full size jar like that of candied pecans from me, I really, really love you because that's a quart. I generally give the smaller cellophane bags that are like on the side. And I like to put like, that's a 3D sticker of a little hummingbird that I love. I put that on there. And that's what I will be giving as gifts. This year, we're having a guest come to our house. And I just want to share something with you. I make a basket for people when they come over. Now, if you're staying for a long time, I may make different things, in your basket. So I'm going to just show you something here. I'm going to take you over and see if you can get a good picture or a good view of, oh gosh, it's kind of dark. I don't think you can see it. Can you put me as the main screen and close out the PowerPoint? Okay. I'm going to move the basket over. Oh, goodness gracious, I'm going to choke myself. Okay. Let me bring the basket over. Hold on. So we're having someone come over who's an old friend of the family. He's a kid, but he's a grown man. And what I do is I prepare the basket. Now it has, toiletries, a little card saying how much we care about him and how happy we are to have him with us and come to visit us.
Can you bring it closer?
Okay, so sorry. I don't know if this, okay. I don't know if you can see it. I think that's much better. You're so right. Whoever said that, thank you for saying that. So he is coming over. He told me some of his favorite things. Now, I just want you all to know, you should know this. This is very important. Flaming hot Cheeto puffs are not available on the East Coast. So this is his favorite snack item. So I bought him a bunch of these. Okay. He told me he loved chocolate covered almonds. So I put these in a little bag for him. He loves granola and dried fruit. So he has a bag of the candied pecans. And he has a bag of the dehydrated apples. The idea being is that he will have these things in his room next to his bed. I always give a water bottle. Now, if you're going to stay with me for 2 or 3 weeks, I'll buy you a water bottle so you can fill it in the refrigerator filter machine thing at your discretion, when you have that there. If you're staying one night or so, I might just get like one of those single-use water bottles. I bought him a pair of like Adidas slippers because we always wear slippers in the house. So this is something that I'm pretty sure he's not going to bring with him. He's also bringing his puppy. He's a dog. He only weighs 10 pounds. So that's what this is. This is actually a dog bed. I don't want the dog sleeping in the bed next to him. So I brought this little like small dog bed for a smaller sized dog. He could put that on the bed and the dog can sleep next to him. Toiletries and things like that. I brought, I always give the person who's visiting their own towel and this kind of thing, hand towels, and I try to wrap it up as nicely as possible. The idea being is that when somebody comes to visit, I'm not running around trying to do things last minute. And one thing that I always try to do before somebody comes, when they're going to stay with me, is I have set aside a separate sheet set that is just for guests. Now, I don't know about you, but I've got a lot of sheets that are old sheet sets, and I don't want to use them for guests, but I like them for myself. And so you're going like trying to find the nicest one you have. Well, if you always set aside, one sheet set that you use for the guest bedroom, and it's the nicest set, you keep it, you don't use it in the family, and you just use it for guests. I just think that's a wonderful idea. This idea I saw many, many years ago on Home and Garden television. And I thought, how wonderful is that? I've always done this since then. I'm talking about like 30, 40 years ago. And I've always done this for guests. And I'm going to tell you that this really makes people feel welcome. It's just a little bit, it's not a lot of effort, little shampoos, toothbrushes, Q-tips, you get these things from the dollar store, you know what I mean? But you put that for someone and they know that they're welcome and they don't have to bother you for little things. If you're busy and you go to work or something while they're there, they don't have to, be without whatever they might want or need. So that's something that I just want to suggest to people if they're interested. I don't know. I thought it was very beneficial when I learned about it. So I thought I'd share that with you. Really, I guess that's it. Oh my goodness, I can't believe that I've talked for over, well, for a whole hour. Um, let me see if there's anything else. Oh yes, there is one other thing that I handed out. So I do want to let you know in your packets that there is a packet of the cookie recipes. So the snickerdoodle cookie, ginger cookie recipe, and the oatmeal cookie recipe with the little tweaks in it are also available in the packet that you're going to get. And there's one other thing. This is food safety. I know I talked to you about freezing, refreezing meat and things of that nature. This talks a little bit about food safety handling. And it might be a good idea just to take a look at some of these things, just to keep in mind, because I knew when I was young, I didn't know that you couldn't refreeze meat after you defrosted it. You have to cook it before you can refreeze it again. What I'm going to do now is, and then I wanted to say one other thing too, is that one of the things I do is, like, let's say I buy onions, green onions, and I just put the ends that I cut them off, I use them, and I stick them in this. This is in this above the sink in my kitchen, and I just reach over and take green onions. I'm telling you honestly, I put these in less than a week ago, and they were just the little white stubs. I don't know if you can see right here. Can you see it? Yeah, you see where that line is, that bar? That's how they were when I first put them in, and look at how much they've grown in 1 week. And I do that constantly whenever I buy green onions, celery, things of that nature. I just stick it right back in the ground. Have these little things right above my sink. I have one of those garden kind of windows, and I just make food from the scraps in the kitchen. And I don't know why, it just gives me so much satisfaction. So that's another little suggestion about, reducing food waste and really having food security. So that's my presentation for tonight. I'm going to take a look and see if there are any questions in the chat, or if anybody would like to ask a question. Please go ahead and feel free to do so.
Go ahead and unmute and turn on your video if you'd like to ask questions.
Were there any questions in the chat?
Yeah, there's a question that says, are you sharing your preserved lemon recipe?
It's kind of funny. I was going to, but somebody said, we've already done all this so many times. So I was a little embarrassed to put it in again. But if you want to, I'm going to include it. Then it's also in that book. I believe it's in our, it is in the book from last year's.
Why don't you flip through the book from last year and mention a couple of the things that are in the book?
Well, what I'll do is I'll let you know how it's formatted, which I think was just part of what was so wonderful about it. I know that Pearl said that she attended the Sacramento presentation. Oh, look, right here.
Diane
right
said the
inside.
preserved lemon recipe is also on the Solano msp.ucanr.edu website with the, I think had to use it with the chicken.
Maybe
chicken.
Well, yeah, because our recipe book from 2018, was it? Or 2019? I don't know, but it has that. It's my recipe.
Books aren't on there. Yeah.
It's my recipe. But here they one of the sections is about spice blends. Okay. And they break it up by, I don't know if you can see it, Africa, Asia, by continent, by area, so that they give you all the sort of like the major flavors of the area. And some of them, well, I looked at the Middle Eastern ones and they have the best ones. They don't have za'atar here. No, they do have za'atar. I mean, they don't have the sumac here, but that's one of my favorite flavors is spices from the Middle East. So they go through a section where they're talking about all kinds of different spices. Then they talk about spiced nuts and making all different kinds of spiced nuts combinations. And this is done by continent and by different groups. Like, for instance, you'll have chicken tikka masala on one page, and then you'll have Middle Eastern farro salad with za'atar, tofu, and lemon chive dressing. I mean, these are really, really good recipes. I'm telling you, this is not like, your everyday recipes. They have a section on citrus, and it gives you, like, candied orange peel and candied ginger recipes. The lemon curd recipe is in here. And let me see if it's my recipe. It is. Oh, no, that's your lemon curd recipe. I'm thinking preserved lemons and I'm looking at lemon curd.
Yeah, that's your preserved lemon recipe.
No, it's not.
It's not?
No, no, I make it very different. I don't put any of these cinnamon sticks in it or peppercorns or anything like that because I don't want it. I
But
want it
that's
to
an
be,
option. That's an option.
yes, I want my lemons to be just lemon and then I can add those things later. And then they go through some different teas, different condiments, they talk about jerky, they talk about flavored vinegars, salsas, and they talk about a couple of the fermenting recipes. Now, this is one thing where I really hope that our research group is they're working on it, but they really need to come up with more fermenting recipes because we're really limited in what we can offer people fermenting. And I do ferment. I love fermenting. I've had a lot of trouble with fermenting since I moved into this house because the environment that you prepare your food in is very important. Whatever is in the atmosphere, the bacteria, whatever it is that's alive, everything's alive. And so I found that, like, for instance, I have here some of my preserved tomatoes. I have a certain base salinity that I use for all my recipes. It's a very high salinity of 2.5%, but most recipes don't even require it that much salt. And some people are afraid about the salt content in fermented food. It's not salty though. If you ferment it completely, it's sort of like in fermentation process, other things come. And I think maybe like the bacteria eats it or absorbs it or something. I'm not really sure what happens, but it's not that salty. Obviously preserved lemons is salty because we're using literally for this one, I would say I use almost a quarter of a cup of salt for this, and yet still it's very edible and actually delicious. And what's funny is that the lemon peel becomes sweet rather than salty or bitter. And I mean, it's definitely salty, but there's a kind of a sweetness and a tartness to it that's really wonderful. Any other questions?
Preserved lemon. This is Karen. I have a question on preserved lemon.
Yeah.
How long is preserved lemon good for?
Like 2 years.
Oh,
Like
okay.
there comes to a
I
point.
made a bunch last year.
Oh, did you?
And I had
Okay.
that whole big, I'm like, I probably need to use it or throw it out. I don't know.
Well, I think what happens is people make it and they leave it on the shelf or in the fridge for a while and they go, oh, this is no good. This is really gungy. But you need to preserve your lemons and leave them 6 to 8 weeks to ferment appropriately so that the bitterness is taken out of the peel and it's becomes soft. That's the earliest you can use it. And I've never had more than like a year last. I make several jars and generally, well, not several. I make small jars because I don't think people know how to use it that much. So I'll make a smaller jar to give away as gifts. And I'll make maybe 2 or 3 of those size pint jars for myself for about the year. So it's not something I use tons of, but I have a lemon tree too. So I got to use my lemon tree. So it's a wonderful way to give really something very delicious and exotic to people.
Well, I did buy the 2020 gifts, book.
Oh, okay.
And it did have several recipes in it. So I'm going to challenge myself to make something with it this week.
Yes, absolutely. Do that. And you can ask Janice. Her favorite is when I take chicken strips and marinate it with all kinds of salt, pepper, garlic. I use a little cumin, I use a little turmeric, a little paprika, and I marinate it in olive oil. And I put that in a Ziploc bag and I just leave it in the fridge, maybe a couple of hours, maybe overnight. And then I go ahead and cut up the preserved lemons. I put the preserved lemons in 2. I'll cut up like the way I showed you how to prepare it. And I leave that for a few hours.
You have to rinse the lemon first, right?
You remember, like I showed you what I did in this bowl? This is all I do. Yeah. And then I'll take it out and I'll dice it up. I'll julienne it really small. I'll throw it into the bag with the chicken tenders, and I'll throw this in too. And I put everything in. And then I leave it for, I don't know, at least I've made it with just like 10 minutes marinating. It's not as flavorful as when you leave it like for a couple of hours. But then I will take it like that out of the bag with all the lemons and everything. And I will put it in either panko breadcrumbs, or I particularly like almond flour. We made that for the first time a couple of weeks ago, Janice and I loved it. And then I pan fry it for like, I don't know,
Oh,
3 minutes on each side, because chicken tenders just depends on the size of the chicken. You can have a large piece of breast, you can have a really small piece of breast. They cook, appropriately. And that was delicious. And then I took Asiago cheese and I melted it a little bit on the top. Ooh la la, it was delicious. Yeah. Yeah. Oh,
Come over.
yeah. Janice didn't get it with the cheese, but I had it like leftovers the next day. And I saw the cheese and I thought, I wonder how that's going to taste. And it was amazing. So yeah, challenge yourself and you'll be happy. You'll enjoy the results.
That's my goal. Thank you.
You're so welcome. Anybody else? Oh, I guess then we're done a little early.
No master food preserving. Oh, Jessica has her hand up.
Oh, please, Jessica.
Hi. This is my first Zoom session. So this is my first introduction to canning in general. So I was just interested in learning about pressure canning in general. Like I don't even know what kind of pressure canner to buy. So the recipe book, will it have that type of information as well?
No.
Okay.
It will not give you enough information. So if you're interested in pressure canning, which is very, very different from water bath canning, you will want to attend a class on pressure canning. Sometimes people give you a recipe. Now, I'm going to tell you that I started like that. I started off of YouTube and I bought 80 pounds of chicken and canned it because I wanted to be like a little prepper and have everything, in my thing. And when I became a master food preserver, like a year later, 2 years later, I told my son, throw that stuff out, because I thought I knew everything because I watched these videos. I must have watched like 10 different instructional videos, but there are nuances that are very important to know. And unless you have somebody who really knows what they're doing, tell you at least one time completely and focus on what those important things are: elevation, venting time, processing time, head space, debubbling, wiping off the rims. These are things that will, if you don't do them right, keeping the pressure off, if it goes down past that pressure, like 10 pounds or 11 pounds, you have to start your time all over again. Allowing it to pressure down by itself, not taking that weight off and then you go, you need to let it come down by itself. You need to also give it, after it's gone down, you've taken the thing off, you need to let it sit for about 10 minutes. These are all absolutely necessary. And I know a lot of people don't do them. So I'm just telling you, these are really necessary to make sure that you have a safe food product at the end. And we are spending a lot of money on this food, a lot of time preparing it and putting it aside and giving it to people that we love and care about. And we should really do it right,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's just something I feel very strongly about. So if you're asking me, I'm going to tell you, contact us and we'll maybe put something together, a pressure canning.
We just completed, Diane, Delina and I just completed a class on canning beans and also canning soups and broths. And we do have the videos and the handouts. So if you would like to send us our email, we can send the video to you.
Do I have that
please.
up?
That'd be great.
Do I have that up on YouTube? Oh, yes, I do. I have that up on YouTube. You can go on my YouTube channel and check it out.
Or just send me your email and in the chat, and I will send you anybody that wants to watch the canning beans and another one was canning soups and broths. So
yes, definitely.
Yeah, so put your emails in the chat and we can get those to you.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Any other questions? Okay, then I guess we're good. I must have done an excellent job, as there's not a single question.
Always.
Again, I just want to thank you, Janice. I love you. You're so sweet. I want to thank everyone for being here, taking the time and spending that time with me and giving me this really positive regard. It means a lot to me to have so many people participate. All right, then I guess we're going to sign off.
Okay, I'm waiting for anybody to put their emails. I do have the email list, but I don't know who wants the video. So if you were to put your we don't want to sign off until they put their.
Yes. Oh, we're not
video
going to sign
in
off,
there.
but if
Yeah.
you are done and you want to go ahead and sign off, please do so. We will stay on for the next 5 minutes or so, giving plenty of time for people to go ahead and enter their information and for us to write it down.
Yeah. So we're getting quite a few
Yeah, I see that. That's
that
wonderful.
would like to have them.
Thank you, Cheryl. I appreciate that. So yeah, we're going to put the packet together and email all of the handouts to everyone. And it will also include the PowerPoint that I gave, because I think there's like information in there that, especially about the freezing food and stuff, that you should have. I'd like you to have. Thank you, Suzanne. Appreciate that. Thank you, Jessica. What's this? Somebody said
Had a
something.
science project, you canned raw packed chicken last week and thought you lost your mind. When I first saw raw packed chicken, I said, that is disgusting. I'm never going to eat that. But after you open it and eat it, oh my gosh, it's so tender and juicy. But it does look better if you roast it. And
Well, we did
canned
that.
it.
Remember, you and I did that one
Yeah,
time.
canned it,
So
yes.
one time we were canning and Janice said, no, I think you should cook it first. So we took half of it and cooked it and half of it and raw packed it. And I'm just going to say that the raw pack was so much more tender than the cooked pack.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could tell the difference right away between what was pre-cooked and what wasn't. So
Right.
it's not,
Karen's daughter made her add a pretty paper sleeve over the can, which I can understand. I can understand that totally, because you see that on the shelf and it's like, what is that? I'm
Yeah.
never eating that. So don't tell them that that's what you're using when you're cooking it. But
Yeah,
it's like
exactly.
for tacos or just whatever, just having that chicken on the shelf, and it was like, yum.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't be discouraged. I want to just say one more thing, is that when my kids were, when I started canning, my kids didn't touch the stuff. There's just like, oh, that's mommy's experiment stuff. But now I can't keep the things on the shelf. I mean, I think that I'm looking at I have only 2 jars left of the dried apples. And how many did we have?
What? Are
I
you
know,
kidding
don't-
me?
Yeah,
What?
that's it.
I'm
We
serious.
had,
I
what,
had
14?
to wait. You made me wait because you were going to seal them. Oh
Yeah,
my
they're-
gosh. I know
yeah.
you better get busy, girlfriend. Yeah, get real busy.
Yeah. I
And you
had
complained about how many I picked and cut up.
well, because
so
you
we
made
could
me do it.
dehydrate them.
You
I
made me do
know.
it. So yeah, I complained about the work, not about the food. But yeah, it's just like disappears off the shelves. So
Yeah, huh?
poor Janice.
I know. I do all the work and I don't get any of the bounty.
Come and get it.
And that's with somebody else too. That's here online. And you
Thank
know
you,
who you
Corinne.
are.
Yeah, take a look at this ginger cookie, okay? This ginger snickerdoodle.
Oh my gosh, I
This is the
know.
one that was frozen. Look at it's so
That's,
tender
yes,
and
it's
crumbly.
Dee Dee and ours. It's Dee Dee and I got a recipe and we tweaked it and
Mhm.
tweaked it till
Mhm.
that's our recipe till we got it. So it was
Oh, it's so good. Like that flavor kind of like stays
Yeah.
in your mouth and then just says, oh, ginger. Yeah, it's great. Oh, just delicious.
somebody wants your candy pecan recipe too. So get
Oh,
yeah.
I don't have that written up. Okay. That's just I do by ear, but okay, I will. I'll put that together too. So
Yes,
two
I
recipes.
definitely want pomegranates and limes, Diane. And Malia doesn't need any.
What? Okay, babe. All right. Mhm. We'll see. Whose birthday's coming up?
Yeah, and then also the chicken is good cooked frozen as well. And you just cook it slower and it's really moist too if you freeze your chicken.
Oh
And
yeah. Mhm.
yeah.
Especially if you're putting it into like a soup, or like I was making a cream-based sauce, and you just put it in there and let it simmer a little bit softly. It's delish.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Ah,
Oh, somebody here was saying that they always freeze their cookie dough and defrost it. Yeah, but you have to shape it first, because trying to handle frozen cookie dough is like trying to like dig through a brick. So if it's
Yeah.
pre-shaped like that, I was so easy. I couldn't believe it. I just put it on the sill pad, whatever it's called, sill pat,
Mhm.
and just put it there with no nothing on the baking sheet, just the sill pat, and it baked perfectly. And this is the oatmeal cookie. Look at that, it's still chewy and crumbly and delicious. Oh yeah.
Oh, I'm going to be over there by you, so I can maybe pick up a couple of those.
Oh, come on by.
Tomorrow.
Well, if you tell me you're coming, I'll throw them in the oven just before I expect you. So my house will smell great. My kitchen will be clean, and you will be having a cup of tea with a little, what is it called? The apple scrap jelly ginger syrup for
Yeah.
sweetener. Yeah. Why not, babe? I'm ready for you, babe. I'm ready.
Tomorrow's Veterans Day. I didn't know it was a holiday.
Yeah, but we're all working.
We-
We're not having it off. It's not one of the days that we have off, and our clinics are all open.
So if Diane is still on, I have to
Oh,
go
you have to shut off the recording.
Oh, that's right. Let me shut it off. Oh, I have to stop this. Let me
Yeah,
do
you better
that
cut off the
first.
part where I'm eating. That's for sure.
Oh, no, we have to keep that up.
Excuse me, can I ask another question?
Yeah, of course. Please do.
I'm
Mhm.
just curious. I was watching a YouTube video once, and it was a older woman showing how she canned tomato sauce, and all she did was
Uh-huh.
put the hot tomato
Upside
sauce
down,
upside
in a
down with the
blanket.
towel. Yes.
You know what, baby? I was like,
Can you do
holy
that for
shish kebabs.
everything?
No,
Or
no.
Okay.
No, but I know the video. She talking like this, so she gonna make
Yes,
it the tomato.
yes.
And she said, "I'm gonna make it
Exactly.
hot. Oh, I gotta put it up
Yes.
high, and I'm like a hot, and she
Yes.
makes it boil more and more." Oh, I know that video.
Yes.
I think everybody in the world has seen that.
Yeah.
And
it's
she makes
really
like
cool.
100 jars of it or something.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I thought that was completely unacceptable, but somebody told me that that is okay because of the acid in the tomatoes. Is Diane still on?
Yeah, Diane's still on.
Diane, do you know this video, this very famous Italian mama video? I have seen, and I'm telling you, I watch her.
It's not recommended. You need to
Yeah.
can it the rest of the way that Amalia said. There, in fact, the USDA has a whole chapter on canning tomatoes. So be sure and use that guideline on how to can tomatoes.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
she's done it like for centuries, it looks like. And I'm gonna
Yeah,
tell
she's
you,
a pro.
yeah, she's, and you know, they have a certain thickness of the blanket. I know that in traditional cooking, they can, like, you can take a pot and boil like a stew in it, get it really hot and boiling, put it into a box with a blanket around it or hay or something. It will continue to cook for 4 to 6 hours and maintain the
Wow.
heat. It's insulated. So what she's doing is she's filling it to the very top, tightening it, putting it upside down, and putting it into an insulated space. So she's literally vacuum packing it because it has a high acid content and stuff, but you can never be sure about tomatoes and how acidic they are. They may be overripe and less acidic. And I see that as potentially dangerous, really, to be
Mhm.
honest.
Just the UC
But-
master food preservers have to follow
Yeah.
recommended and approved research-based information. And
Mhm.
that's why that is not research-based, and
Mhm.
we have to follow certain recipes. So while
Yeah.
we all know life is a risk, we don't want to advertise that people take risks like that.
Mm-mm. Oh
because
no, I'd
it's
never do that.
dangerous. It can
Again,
be dangerous.
we are taking our food that costs us a lot of money, putting a lot of time and effort into it, giving it to people we love and care about. We do not need to be doing it wrong.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you. That was very
So welcome.
interesting.
Thank you.
And look at the Master Food Preservers website. There's all sorts of good resources on there. And
Okay.
and there are a lot on pressure canning. I don't know which person is talking, if this is Jessica or somebody
Yes,
else.
this is Jessica.
Okay, but there's lots of information, and like we just done 2 workshops on pressure canning. Amalia did a great thing on canning beans.
Yeah, check the
And
beans
I, and I
video.
have done canning
Okay.
beans as well, and we did canning soups, and we did canning broths, and we have all the slide sets, so, and all the handouts that go with that. Plus, you can contact people individually and get more information. Any of you can do that.
Perfect.
Yeah, and I
I
think
mean-
that if you do watch that beans video, it's really, even though it's focusing on beans, it's very comprehensive in the use of the and I do talk about a couple of different kinds. Now, if you can afford it, honestly, probably the All-American is by far the most desirable one. But if
Okay.
you're an old yenta and you can't pick up heavy stuff, it's a heavy thing. I have to have my kids carry it. Well, I don't have to, but
Oh, wow.
oh, please pick it up for me, you know.
And I,
You know?
and I prefer the Presto because it's much lighter.
Much
And-
lighter.
And I am an old yenta, and so I'm not gonna get that one, but because it heats up faster and it cools
Yes, it
down
does.
faster.
You're absolutely right. It
And
does.
so there's advantages and disadvantages to the different pressure canners. And
Right.
Denise is thinking about doing a workshop in the winter, maybe on what different pressure cookers look like and what
Canners.
they do.
Not
And I
cookers,
think that would
canners.
be the canners, right?
Yeah.
So people can get an idea about what one to choose.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. If it's your first one, you can maybe try something less expensive and smaller, and then work and
Okay.
see, oh, do I like doing this or
What,
not?
am I
and
gonna
does
use
work?
it enough too, you
Yeah.
know, for it's an investment,
Exactly.
right?
Yeah, an All-American is a significant investment. It's like $300-$400 for a good size one.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but the other ones are
Yeah.
cheap. The other ones are Presto.
Karen has an
Oh.
All-American, she said. Her husband carries it for her.
Yeah, it's the difference between like a Teflon coated pan. That's not Teflon, whatever they put on pans now, and a cast iron pan. There are really significant differences in how you can use those pans and how you can use those canners. For example, the All-American doesn't have the rubber gasket, so you never have to replace it. It uses a weighted gauge, although it has a pressure dial on it. The weighted gauge is something you can use, and you never have to have it checked to see. So a regular canner that has a gasket, that has a dial, a pressure dial, those things have to be checked annually. So for me, I don't want to worry about it. I want to buy it, have it, 2 o'clock in the morning, make it if I want to. I don't want to worry about when was the last time I had it checked.
You
So
can get pressure regulators for the dial gauges, and that's what I recommend now. So you can turn them into that. So
And-
there's lots
and
of
what about-
trade-offs.
What about like the Instant Pot? Because they say that it's a pressure.
Can't
No.
use it to can with. You can use it to prepare some things, but not to
Okay.
can with.
not for canning.
Got it.
It's a pressure
it, okay.
cooker, not a
Yeah.
pressure canner, and there are significant
Got it. Okay.
differences, yeah.
It's got to fit 4 quart-sized jars.
And
Oh,
it's
I see.
just- And it's just not, an Instant Pot is not designed to be a
No.
canner because it doesn't go 5, 10, 15 pounds. So
Well, I
that's
don't-
critical too.
I don't believe it reaches the
Okay.
temperature of 240 degrees, which is what you need to reach in order to destroy the
Right.
spores of botulism.
Well,
So
it's not,
wow.
yeah, it's not developed to can stuff safely, so.
I see.
Karen, are you a master food preserver? Karen?
No, I'm not. I
You're,
would
oh, okay, 'cause
like to be.
you're what?
I would like to be.
She would like to be.
Where do you live?
I'm in Woodland.
Oh,
We're
great.
gonna
Oh,
be
we have
having
one in
training in
Leolo.
February. We have new signups starting in February for more master food preserving,
Oh, good.
preservers. Yeah, and so just email me with that you're interested. And you said you have mason jar die cuts for your notes. What
Let
is
me
that?
show you one.
Yeah, you can share your screen if you like.
Oh, can you make her big
Oh,
so we
how
can
cute.
see
Isn't
her?
that?
that adorable?
I
Yeah,
can't see it.
Really cute.
Show it
Turn
one
it
more
around
time.
again, Karen. There we go. She's gonna spotlight you. See that?
Oh, how cute is that?
Very cute.
That is cute. Did you make those?
Yes, she did.
Oh,
Oh, yay. You're
you
muted,
need to
honey.
share.
Karen is
Share.
muted. Karen, you're muted, baby.
Unmute.
There-
I don't know how
there we go.
that happened. Anyway, so this is my cover sheet that I made. This Karen's Food Preservation Journey. And then I made a little template for all the little Zoom meetings that we have.
Oh,
So this
wow.
is today's session, and this is my notes.
Great.
And here's my little sheet. Are they the cutest little
They are
dogs in the
cute. That is so
world?
cute.
Oh,
I love
yeah.
that.
Ah,
I love that.
So,
Really cute.
so all my little notes, because I kept finding all my notes on different books and papers. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. So,
Well, and I think
and so I have
also,
one for the master. I'm making a new one for a master gardener.
Uh-huh.
I make little seed packets and stuff. I have a smaller one for
Oh,
my
I like that.
garden. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
Are
you know,
are you a master gardener in Woodland?
I am not. I'm a gardener. I was a gardener for plants, and when I moved here, I started food. But I had back surgery, so I have a limitation. So my husband has to do the heavy lifting for me, and depending on the day, I wear a back brace. I had surgery a year,
oh, wow.
almost 2
Oh,
years
okay.
ago,
Mhm.
and so that's been my, I can't say, oh, always on Monday I could do this because it depends on my pain. But I've done a lot of preserving now, meats and food. Of course, the family thinks I'm crazy. They all think I'm like, I do a lot of dehydrating too. So I really love the dehydrator. I named my dehydrator Peaches because my daughter has a peach tree.
Oh, nice.
And
Let's
so
make
I have
friends.
I made peach vinegar and made so much jams and different things with the peaches. And so she bought me the dehydrator. So the dehydrator is
Nice.
called,
Oh, yeah, that's nice.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I love
That's awesome.
dehydrating. Yeah.
Well, become a master food preserver and join us. It would be wonderful to have you.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
the
I'm
classes
looking
are
forward-
good. The lecture part is online, and so you don't have to go anywhere, which is nice too.
Oh my God. Bird
Yeah.
shrieking in my ear.
Sorry, I won't mute
That's
again.
Blade. That's Diane's.
Uh-huh.
So will you
Blade.
guys will you send us an information when the new classes start? I mean, for
Yeah,
master
email
food
me,
preservation?
and email. Do you have my email, Janice Sabetsky?
No, let me write it down. Hold on.
Okay, let me write it on the chat.
Put in the chat one more time so it's like right there. I love that idea of your book. I have
I do
like
too.
4 grandchildren, and my other son is thinking of having children in a couple of years. And I was thinking, I'm getting older. I wonder if they'll really know me. And I was thinking that I should start a kitchen journal of like our favorite things. And that's why I put up these videos on YouTube. Really, it's for my family to be able to look back and say, "How this is our mom. This is what she used to do. This is, and just to have that connection with me." So it's my my little thing of posterity.
Is
Yeah,
that-
that's it.
yeah. Well, that'll never happen with me. I don't have a cookbook. But yeah, Saturday what do you call it? Friday we're having a new a master food preserver coordinators meeting where we're gonna go through about what the training is gonna be and when
If
the
it's gonna
dates
be-
are
Okay.
in February.
Okay. Yeah. So just send an
Right.
email with your interest, and we'll let you know what the information is, and you can see if it's
I'll
something.
definitely do that.
It's very easy. It's not physically strenuous at all. And it's really, you do what you want, or you don't do
And
what you don't want. So.
And Janice can send the applications to everybody who's attended any of the workshops we've had
Mhm.
as well, and any of the
Yeah.
asks, because she has all of your email addresses from that as well.
That's a great idea too. I think we
I
should
have
do
a
that.
couple
Just
people that
blanket
want to buy
email
the
it.
book, but
Oh,
in
that's
Rancho Murrieta, it's like.
Well, I had last year's. Are you guys going to come up with a new one? for
Every
this
year.
Yes.
We're going to be
Yeah,
a new
there's a
one.
new one this year. It's gonna
Did
be.
you
I have
like
some-
it? Did you like the
Yeah.
book? I think
Yeah,
I haven't used
it had,
anything.
it had a wealth of information on there.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so we're
Yeah.
gonna.
I actually went to the fabric store so I can make little covers for my jams. And I made I'll show you my little labels that I made because, I can. And they're really cute. So this is my strawberry label.
Oh, wow.
How'd
And
you
I
do
just
that?
went and got the fabric for the top. Look at that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So
Yeah.
that's my strawberry.
That
And then I
is
have
such a
some
great gift idea.
peaches.
Why didn't you show me that before? I could have put it into my presentation.
Because
It really,
I just made
packaging
all
is
my
half of
labels
it.
for all my labels for the jars. So
You can sell your labels.
then I
wanna
went and
buy
got
some.
fabric, and I'm gonna cover them with a hexagon fabric,
Mhm.
and then put the little label
Mhm.
on it.
That's awesome.
So
Oh, that's
because
great.
everybody loves all the different jams, right? And so,
Yes,
at Christmas time.
definitely.
But I want your pecan recipe.
And I'm going to tell you
We all want your
that recipe is there's never been a person who tasted it and didn't ask for it again and again and again and again. And I made so many, and my son is just
Amalia,
eating up
put
like
your
candy.
YouTube channel in the chat.
Nobody's on anymore, are they?
Bernadette.
Okay, let me see.
Well,
It is.
You know the candy orange peels or lemon
Yeah.
peels that you guys gave? I made
Uh-huh.
jars of that. My grandson will eat a half a pint in one sitting.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
He'll
And
eat
then
a half a pint. Yeah.
who'd have thought, huh?
And he's like 12. Who would have thought a 12-year-old would like that?
How do I send it?
You're gonna put it in the chat and hit enter.
I did, but oh, here it is. So that's the out. It's called Outings for Old Ladies Who Aren't Dead Yet. It's just a fun little title I thought about because I thought, oh, my kids were the ones who were watching me do videos and going different places. So I just have it's not a monetized channel. It's just for fun and just for master food preserving. The ones that are like me going places are private, so you won't see any of those. But the ones that we do here, the Ask Us videos and stuff, they're on that channel. And I do want to just, I don't know, nobody's really on anymore, but I want people to know that there won't be one for next month in December. It's just way too hectic and too many things going on. So there will not be an ASCA in December. We'll have one probably starting either January or February. We'll start up with a new series. If anybody has an idea for a series they'd like to see, please put it in the chat, because I did those 5 sessions of emergency preparedness. I can do them again, or I can do something else. So if anybody wants to put in a suggestion in the chat of what they'd like to see, or a series or just a specific topic, please do so that I can have some sort of feedback as to what people are wanting to do.
So Pearl's still on. Did you want to ask her how you did?
Pearl. Okay, Pearl, how'd I do?
You did great, Amalia. You did
always say
great.
that. You always say
Yeah.
that, babe. I love you. That's why I
Oh,
ask you,
yeah.
because you always
Well,
say I did great.
Well, I love the idea about rolling those little balls of cookie dough and freezing them like
Yeah,
that.
There's
I
no
never
defrosting
thought of doing
necessary.
that, and it's a fantastic idea.
See, I love you. I love you, Pearl. Thank you.
All right, well, I'm gonna end it because I got another meeting going on in a few
All right, my
minutes.
love. All right,
Okay.
everybody. Good night, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Love you. Bye.